Hi there. So in this video, we're going to take a look at module extra practice module 57. And so this is the very first one of unit 4. And so it's awesome that you're doing this one. It's actually probably the most important one of the entire unit. So this one's a good one to pay attention to. It's the introduction to the whole unit, market structure. And so you'll learn about kind of the meanings and the different 4 types of markets, and then kind of the distinctions and little features of them. So we'll scroll down here, check it out, all these things, monopolies, oligopolies, all that good stuff, monopolistic competition, module 57 review. Check your understanding. And there's only one question for the check your understanding, and it has 4 parts. And it says, which of the market structures is being represented here? So it gives you a little scenario and says which one. And it doesn't say to explain, but I will provide a quick explanation for each one so you understand why my thinking is what it is. The first one says there are 3 producers of aluminum in the world, a good sold in many places. And what should tip you off here is that there are 3 producers. That's too few to be monopolistically competitive, but that's too many to be a monopoly, which would be 1 firm. So it's an oligopoly. And olig meaning few, right? The few producers. So that's just what that one means. B, there are thousands of farms that produce indistinguishable soybeans to thousands of buyers. And so this one tells you 2 pieces of information. It says there are many, many buyers, many, many firms, and that the products are identical in both perception and reality. And so that should be the key characteristics of perfect competition, which is the market we've been looking at since the beginning of the semester, right? So this is perfect competition. Part C says many designers, so we're talking about more than just a few, will sell high fashion clothes. Okay, each designer has distinctive style and a somewhat loyal clientele. So it's basically giving you some information here. It's saying the product they're making is differentiated, which means that it's the same kind of product, it's clothing, but they distinguish it between little things about them. They have somewhat brand loyalty, so again, product differentiation. And those two pieces of information tell us enough to rule out perfect competition, because perfect competition are identical. The second piece of information is that we have many designers, not very few, and so that rules out oligopoly, because oligopolies also use product differentiation. And so that leaves us with the thing in between an oligopoly and perfect competition, which is monopolistic competition. Monopolistic, it'd be nice if I could spell competition. And basically monopolistic competition is like the middle ground between perfect competition and a monopolistic market. And so that's what we call it. And I bet part D is going to be a monopoly. Let's see. A small town in the middle of Alaska has 1 bicycle shop. That tells you all you need to know. 1 shop selling the product means it's monopoly. So monopolies don't have to be, giant scale. I like that question because it's basically saying within a geographic area, if there's only 1 producer of a product, that's a monopoly. All right, let's take a look at the multiple choice questions here. Number 1 says, which of the following is true for a perfectly competitive industry? 1, there are many firms, each with a large market share. There are many, that's true, but not a large market share. Each firm in a perfectly competitive one has small market share. So we're going to rule out statement 1. Statement 2, the firms in the industry produce a standardized product. That is true, right? They're all identical, perception and reality. So 2 is going to be a true statement. 3 says there are barriers to entry and exit. Wrong. Perfect competition has no barriers, 0, zilch, none whatsoever. So the correct answer here is B. Number 2, which of the following is true for monopoly? Okay, statement 1, there is only 1 firm. That one's true. Hopefully we got that one. Statement 2, the firm produces a product with many close substitutes. Well, if there are lots of substitutes for the product, then it's not really a monopoly, because that means there's multiple producers of basically the same product. So we're going to rule out statement 2. It's not really true of monopoly, right? Statement 3, the industry has free entry and exit. Free means easy, right? It's no barriers. And that would be true for perfect competition, but it's totally the opposite thing for monopoly. For monopoly, there's really high barriers to starting a new company in a monopoly type industry. That's why it's a monopoly. So the correct answer here is going to be 1 only A. 3, which is the following is true for an oligopoly. Are we noticing a pattern here? There are few firms, each with a large market share. That is true, right? For oligopolies, you've got, usually fewer than half a dozen or so, and they each have a big chunk of the market. 2, the firms in the industry are interdependent. That's a key characteristic of oligopoly. Interdependent means their outcomes depend on what the other ones do. So 2 is also true. 3, the industry experiences diseconomies of scale. that doesn't even make sense. Diseconomies of scale refers to one company, right? We don't talk about a whole industry that way. That would be kind of strange. So 3 is actually just like a false presupposition. So we'd say 1 and 2 only, which would be D. Statement 4. Which of the following is true for a monopolistically competitive industry? I noticed the pattern here. There are many firms, each with a small market share. Yeah, we would say that's probably pretty true for monopolistic competition. Lots of firms, small market share. 2, the firms in the industry produce a standardized product. Not always. They can, but they typically don't, actually. Things like grocery stores, restaurants, clothing stores, that's not usually an identical standardized product. Usually there's little subtle differences. So we're going to rule out 2. 3, firms are price takers. We can rule that one out. The only price takers are going to be perfectly competitive firms. Price takers, perfectly competitive. Price makers are all of the imperfectly competitive ones. So the oligopoly, the monopoly, and the monopolistic competition, those are all price makers. They have the ability to set a price in the market as opposed to perfect competition where they just take the price. So we ruled out 3, we ruled out 2, so we're left with just statement 1 only, A. And question 5, which of the following is differentiated product? Now this one, students miss this one all the time, and I'm like, no. Differentiated products are basically the same product category, right? So it's like, the same thing, but they have subtle little differences like brand or little different features and things like that. Maybe subtle differences in taste, that kind of thing, or quality, but they're the same category of product. So Coke and Pepsi is the correct answer here, A. But automobiles and bicycles are not the same category. But I have students every single year who are like, but they're interchangeable. And I'm like, not really. They're not, you don't see like, the Huffy bicycle company competing with Toyota. That's not what they compete. Maybe the Huffy bicycle company competing with like another random bicycle company that I can't think of, or Toyota competing with Chevrolet. But aside from that, right? Trucks and gasoline, again, they're not the same product category. Stocks and bonds, they're not the same product category. And gold and silver they're different enough product category for most people that we wouldn't regard them as differentiated products. That for them, commodities don't usually work that way either. So A, the tip off should be that it's a brand. All right, last one, free response number 2. Here we go. Draw a correctly labeled graph of a perfectly competitive firm's demand curve if the market price is 10. Oh, well, that one we could have done last unit, right? That one's Mr. Darp, right? So remember, perfectly competitive firm. You've got price and quantity, and Mr. Darp does one of these. Demand, average revenue, price, and what does it say? The price is $10. $10. Boom. Part B. What's the firm's marginal revenue equal anytime it sells one more unit? Demand, average revenue, price. There we go. We just put part B. Done. Hopefully that helped you. See you next time.